Can your backup character die before your main character? Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it actually happened to one of my players once. So sit back and let me tell you the hilarious and tragic story of Farquad the Warlock. What's up, nerds? My name is Jeff. I do virtual tabletop stuff as well as tabletop RPG stuff. I make some bad animations and even worse jokes. If any of that sounds fun to you, I have my Discord community and my Ko-fi linked below. I also have a new book coming out in December that I'm going to be releasing for $0 on a pay what you want, when you want, if you want kind of deal. It'll be available in my Discord below. It's called The Empire of Arden, and it is a steampunk dark fantasy setting for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, heavily based on monster hunting similar to The Witcher, as well as Lovecraftian dark god themes. So if that sounds good, again, I've got my Discord and my Ko-fi down below where I occasionally run games for community members, and we'd love to have you. Alright, let's hit it. This is going to have some spoilers for one of the locations in Barovia for the Curse of Strahd campaign, so if you don't want to hear that, go away. So we're doing Curse of Strahd. It's going alright. I'm doing my best to voice these Eastern European knockoff characters, which for me always ends up being somewhere between Marcus from Borderlands and the Russian guy from every movie in the 90s that needed a Russian guy. The party cruises through the Death House, and I introduce Strahd waiting for them outside, and then I have him and his goons ravage the village of Barovia, while the underleveled party was left to watch, powerless to help without bringing the wrath of these vampires down on themselves. This is my way of trying to establish that, hey, there's dangerous shit here and it can kill you, so be careful. By the time they made it to Old Bone Grinder, however, one player had apparently forgotten about that. You see, in Death House, you can find the actual deed to the old Bone Grinder windmill. Hundreds of years old and caked in dust, that windmill apparently at one time belonged to the Durst family. Not that Durst. It's the family that lived in the Death House. Although presumably before it was called the Death House. That sounds like a really tough sell for a real estate agent. The party consisted of a rogue, a druid, a paladin, and a warlock. The warlock was a halfling or a gnome, I don't remember which, but it was named Farquad, like the actual Farquad from Shrek. A really funny girl from my community named Sam was playing Farquad and was trying to bridge a cross-class gap to bring the horny bard stereotype into the tiny evil manlet of a warlock. From arrogantly flirting with disinterested barmaids to attempting to seduce a ghost by bragging about how rich he was back home, Farquad was out in Barovia looking for love in all the wrong places. Like Barovia. Barovia's the wrong place. Sam stayed true to form and in character as Farquad the entire time, and that didn't change when they got to Bone Grinder. Farquad had found the aforementioned deed, and when they found the 3 older women living in the battered old windmill, he decided it was time to claim ownership and start the eviction process. When his attempts at halfway mocking flattery failed, he simply held up the deed and told the old women to leave. Now, if you're familiar with Barovia, you know that the old women in this windmill are not just old women, they're hags. Not like the mean thing to call an old lady, like night hags. They have horns. Maybe it's based on the mean thing to call an old lady. Or maybe the mean thing to call an old lady is based on night hags. Sounds like a chicken egg thing. I don't know. Either way, it didn't work. Night hags don't like you. They don't have to know you, they just don't like you. They are mean, evil witch people. They are the OG Karens of the D&D multiverse. Now this petulant little gnome, who was maybe level 4 or 5 at the time, pushed these lovely ladies over the edge and they immediately revealed their true forms and attacked. This was almost a TPK. One of the hags knocked out Farquad pretty quickly, and they were phasing in and out of the ethereal plane. The party barely made it out alive, with the hags constantly trying to put them to sleep. The 4 of them hit the road and hightailed it for the nearest town, and with a successful roll, one of the party members was able to explain how hags operate on the way, and that they needed to be careful what they needed to look out for. When they got to the inn, they found a table, got some drinks, and started planning their next move in the town of Valakai. That's when Farquad noticed that a totally hot babe had just walked into the bar and gotten a table across the room from theirs. He also noticed that she was eyeing him up from that table, and we need to be careful and this is what we need to look out for quickly turned into, but what about the babes, and I want my be my. He took action right away. He asked to buy the most expensive wine in the bar and went over to her table. And she was apparently into him. For the first time, somebody was accepting his advances, which should have been a red flag for anybody else, and it probably was for Sam, but not for Farquad. After a few minutes of this, she invited him up to her room, and Farquad suggested that not only do they go up to the room, but that they sneak up to the room so that his party doesn't try to stop him. Now, this probably doesn't come as a surprise, but the totally hot babe was not a babe, it was a hag. One of the hags had followed them via the ethereal plane to the town of Valakai, watched them go into the bar, and taken the form of this totally hot babe. Let's go back for a second and take a look at that hag stat block. Hags have the spell Sleep, and one important thing about the spell Sleep is that it doesn't require a saving throw or an attack roll. It is just a dice roll, and if your hit points are under the total rolled, you fall asleep. There's nothing you can do about it. And being that they had just narrowly avoided a TPK, Farquad's hit points were at 5. And when you roll the dice for a sleep spell, you roll 5d8, which means that the minimum number that you can get is 5. So there was no way Farquad was getting out of this, which leads to the most important ability on that stat block: Nightmare Haunting. While on the ethereal plane, the hag magically touches a sleeping humanoid on the material plane. A protection from evil and good spell cast on the target prevents this contact, as does Magic Circle. As long as the contact persists, the target has dreadful visions. If these visions last for at least 1 hour, the target gains no benefit from the rest, and its hit point maximum is reduced by 5 or 1d10. If this effect reduces the target's hit point maximum to 0, the target dies. And if the target was evil, its soul is trapped in the hag's soul bag. The reduction of the target's maximum hit points lasts until removed by the Greater Restoration spell or similar magic. Farquad only had 5 hit points, and Farquad was a neutral evil character. The little guy was doomed. Now, we were all laughing about this. Sam was a great sport, and because they had snuck away, the party didn't even know what was happening, or that there was only 1 hour left until their little buddy was gone. They had no reason to go upstairs outside of metagaming and randomly investigate, so we just accepted that Farquad had met a very appropriate end, done in by his own horniness, arrogance, and overconfidence. Now, Sam told us not to worry. She actually already had a backup character planned, and that she was going to be using one of the reborn lineages, which actually came with the Guide to Ravenloft, which is kind of like a zombie. It's like a Frankenstein's monster. You're sort of stitched together from different body parts, a reanimated being. And we were expecting some cloaked, hooded figure trying to hide their true nature. But you already know where this is going just from the title of the video. That wasn't apparently the plan that Sam had. This one might have been a little short-sighted. Sam proceeds to describe her character, and please remember that we are in Barovia. This is a nation ravaged by the undead, ruled by a vampire demigod, and it's all kind of central to the lore that, hey, these people aren't very trusting, and while nobody's a fan of the undead, these people are kind of extra non-fans of the undead. So when describing her character, she explains that it's very evil looking and still covered in blood seeping from its wounds and slashes, that it has hollow eye sockets and looks like an undead goddess. I said, Sam, I don't know what to do here. I think the villagers are gonna panic and attack you. Alright, and so was the party. The party had just gotten out of a fight with a bunch of evil women, and now there's this evil woman coming in who's clearly having, at the very least, some very serious hygienic problems, but she looks undead. She is undead. She is an actual undead character. Everybody panics. The whole bar attacks her. Combat doesn't even last 1 round. Her character dies. We laughed about this for the rest of the campaign, Sam included. She realized in the moment, like, oh yeah, I guess this was kind of short-sighted, and it was sort of a running joke for the whole campaign that because Farquad technically was gonna take an hour to die, that means that this undead lady walked into the bar and got murdered while Farquad was still sleeping upstairs, having his soul drained by a hag, which means that her backup character effectively died before her main character. Sam's third character was a lovable elven sorceress that everybody got along with. And she ended up using that character for the rest of the time we spent in Barovia. So that's the story of Farquad the Warlock. I hope you liked it. I love you. Bye. Or should I say, alright, that's it. See ya.